president of the National Unity Platform, Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobiwine. Of course, the circumstances around his actual whereabouts still remain fuzzy, but what we know for a fact in the week that we're ending is that he showed up for a summit in Geneva and made some statements to the effect that, one, there is nobody at his residence that has now become a military fortress, because his family did flee the country because of the insecurity around him. But he also called upon the Western world to sanction President Yoweri Museveni, his son, and everybody that works for them, which I mean by extension would mean people like Honorable Kateshi and Lydia Wanyotwa and others. I want to put it to you in a tour de table. Maybe, as politicians, what do you read of that? Is Bobiwine's current activities as useful as to make any significant change in the issues as we know them here in Uganda, or he's just doing what the letter K does in the word knife? I'll start with you, Lydia.
Yes.
Don't tell me you didn't hear my question. I know it's a bit very overcast here in the studio and it's quite rainy outside. We're asking, I'll send the question to you, but right now just take it now to Katesh. Maybe then afterwards I will let you compose yourself. Katesh.
Well, first of all, I think for anyone to vie for the leadership of this country, the people of Uganda have to decide. It is not any other party or any other government, but you have to go to the people, present yourself, and then the people decide. We have just gone through an election. Yesterday I was talking to some of my friends in India. They called me. They said it's unbelievable how election ended, and it is as if we did not have an election. Elections have got challenges, and it is
why Abudu is laughing and Lydia, we will find out.
Yes,
but proceed.
World over. We have challenges everywhere.
Me and Lydia were laughing at each other. We're not laughing at what Kata is saying.
At the constituency level, we all had challenges. What I don't believe in is you going to wherever you go, launch your manifesto, talk about the need for talk about elections when the people of Uganda have decided. Because those people in those capitals are not going to come and vote. They are not registered voters here. Yes, you can take your complaints, but ultimately I think running away from the people of Uganda to talk up, because I don't know why, if I have been in an election, why wouldn't I come out and speak about my experiences and talk to the people of Uganda, what I have gone through? Why do you have to run to the other capitals to talk about elections?
Because a precedent has been set here. There is a gentleman who is in jail now. How many years? Dr. Kiza Besjo, who decided to stay and speak.
I'm talking about elections, where some of the questions that apparently were asked could not be answered. We have 500 plus constituencies. We have members of parliament. How many did your party front? Did you have agents everywhere? In my own constituency, some of the presidential candidates did not have even a single agent. And then the elections results are declared for the president. Then you say you won. You were cheated and you won. And you go and you make a statement. I don't think that is proper. The other issues about some of the pockets of violence and issues that happen is something that we can discuss. Again, as the people of Uganda, there are things which we need to do right. There are mistakes which we need to avoid. But largely, I think these elections produced a clear winner, who was our candidate, His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni. Therefore, for you to go to other capitals and call for sanctions against him and make statements, I think it is just abusing the authority of Uganda. If you have a case, you should put it to the public court of Uganda here to say, look, I was in this polling station, my votes were not counted in this polling station, and produce. But you cannot go and make accusations. They have serious economic implications. We have had countries where we have had challenges. The neighboring country here in the north,
South Sudan.
Some of our actions as political players, whether we are in oppositions or in government, can actually result into serious economic and social destabilization, and therefore we must be measured, mature, and be able to handle politics responsibly. But running around, calling for sanctions, claiming you won, you have no results, you don't know the number of constituencies in Uganda, you don't know the candidates you fronted. Some of the candidates, I listened to those who came to campaign. You are a presidential candidate, and all the message you have has completely no content for the people. And then you expect people to follow you and vote for you. And that was the difference between our candidate and other candidates, particularly the runners-up you are talking about, because I listened to the whole speech. The campaign in Shema was peaceful. He came, he spoke to the people, there was no violence. I listened to the whole speech online. What I heard online was also a lot of provocations. People, commenting on TikTok that, people are being beaten, they are being tear gassed by police, when actually on the ground there was nothing, because I was in Shema, I was listening. And the whole speech did not have content to convince anyone to believe that, to convince the majority to believe that we need to change. And therefore the results that came out reflected what people were convinced about. And so our president, duly elected, is going to be sworn in, and we should be able to work with him. I'm glad some of the opposition leaders are starting to join, to see the light. They are coming on board. And then we have dialogue to correct some of the mistakes that could have happened as a growing democracy, so that next elections become better and we improve on our democratic practices. That's all I can say. But I do not, and I can never support anyone who goes into the capitals, the western capitals, to seek support when the authority, our employers here are the voters. You have to come to them here, not the people that surround you in the capitals. Some of them are not informed. I have been in some dialogue in Europe where people are not informed. The new crop of leaders in some of those countries have no idea about Africa. They don't know. What they know is what they read on social media. The other day I had a game of golf with a gentleman from Ira, a visiting tourist. He told me, I'm here for a month, but the people in my country were discouraging me to come. The picture of what they have for Uganda and Africa is different. But this is a peaceful country. I have come. You have challenges like we do in other countries. Ugandans need to be aware of that, and we all work towards making our country better.
The same has been done, only that this time it was done successfully by the current president when he was clamoring for power. He sought Western support or support from other parts of the world, not just in terms of support in slogans and giving him platforms to speak, but he sought finances, he sought ammunition, and toppled the sitting government. Why would you have not castigated that and you're castigating what Bobiwine seems to be doing? I'll just turn to you, Abdul Katuntu and
I thought you were asking me. I was 2 years old. So.
I knew that's what you'd tell me, so I understand Abdul, for him to give us his thoughts around the circumstance, but also bearing in mind that we have seen not just the case of President Museveni, but here we are. President Museveni just this week has met a delegation from warring factions in Sudan. Who would you then say the Sudanese people are coming here to seek our support, yet the real issue should be solved by the Sudanese people? I mean, it's a global village. I think Bobiwine would be perhaps in faculty to consult and talk to anyone if he wanted to. But let me hear what Abdul has to say about the circumstance. I could be wrong.
First of all, I don't know why anybody should be surprised that the Honorable Kyagulanyi is doing what he has done. I mean, is it the first time? Since he came on the political scene, he has been doing that. Even us, when we are still in the Forum for Democratic Change, we were doing that. Even before us, when we were before us in FDC, the Uganda People's Congress, your brother Ocheno was in the United Kingdom doing exactly this. And some of those pursuits really managed to change the political terrain around here. For example, the return to multi-party politics was not largely homegrown. Forget about the referendum. The referendum was just to answer the legal technicalities of doing it, because the constitution had said to change the political system, you need a referendum. So in the third world, many countries think the political space is not as available as it is, so they run to the third world. Unfortunately, I must emphasize unfortunately, and to that extent I agree with Katesh. Then two, there is this arrogance of the Western world that actually they can make things change in the third world country, and actually that also happens, unfortunately. They bully, they do use sanctions, and they do all sorts of things, and African leaders sometimes do concede to them. So if you are in a position like a Kyagulanyi is in now, you think that is one of the options, like many other leaders thought so. Even Dr. Besigye is used to move all over the world doing the same, and we were doing the same, all of us. So I don't want us to be so much shocked. But again, like I said when we were having the earlier conversation, I don't want to look at symptoms. Where is the problem? Can we address the problem? What is it that has taken Kyagulanyi to, where was he again? Geneva? What is it that has taken him there? And two, he may have not had the intellectual of putting the issues, but do those issues exist or not? And if they do, how do we put them on table and we discuss them as Ugandans, like Katesh did is saying? One of them is, and to the extent I agree with what many people have been saying, that we need to have a very honest conversation about the challenges facing this country, and to have the courage to handle them ourselves, rather than thinking that you'll go to Belgium and Belgium will sort out this mess for you. That mess is created by Katesh and myself and Lydia here. We need to sort that out. During the last election, were there challenges, Katesh? They were. Do we have an opportunity to address those challenges? Do we have the courage, the will to address the challenges such that we have a better election tomorrow? Do we have it? All the players, all the stakeholders, whether government, whether those who face those challenges. Because the biggest player now, stakeholder, is the person who won the elections. If he's saying, okay, I am open to talks, the people who face the challenges now, are they ready to talk to him? Or to them, talking to him is sacrilege? So how do you say, well, we'll never talk to him, or we talk to him on our own terms, but we are going to run to Geneva? Does that make sense? So there are things, for example, when I see business in parliament. When you've been elected and you're in parliament and you are just ended an election, the first business should be, how do we put our heads together as members of parliament to address challenges that took place during elections? Honestly, are they willing to discuss as government and opposition? Put up a committee, discuss whoever is responsible, whether the president, whether the army, whether the electoral commission, come up with a report. Because to me, I look at parliament as the representative of the people. Never mind others don't look at it so they imagine it being in a civil society, you are the representative of the people. Yeah, and or being on the social media, you are the to me, I think once you're in parliament, that is a forum. Is that forum ready to discuss issues that affected the elections? I'll give you an example. In 2001, they put up a committee. It was headed by then a member of my committee, actually the Honorable Fred Ruhindi, and did a very good job. I hope guys can look at his report, because Fred Ruhindi made the Fred Ruhindi committee really did a thorough job, and there is a report there which literally addressed each and every challenge, including proposing legal reforms. And those legal reforms, some of them happened. I want to tell you, Simon, when you look at the law as it is now, we have one of the best electoral laws in this country. The law as it is now.
Sure.
But the problem is, do folks go by the law, or to them the law is nothing? But as Parliament, they went ahead and proposed reforms, which reforms were actually enacted into legislation. So are we ready to address them? Or do we think that when you run to Geneva, you run to Brussels, you run to London, then you have a better opportunity to change the situation here? It could be yes and no. In countries like Kenya, because of their relationship with the Western world, and because of their interest also, I had that conversation, I think, with this youth some time back, that the Western world interest in Kenya is far, far bigger than the interest in Uganda, for many reasons. Where it is situated at a water body, international water body, but also the Kenyan economy. You know, it is a satellite economy. Areas like agriculture are purely, Western world control. Those huge farms you see. Kenya tourism, the entire tourism sector is purely, Tel Aviv and other areas. And so those guys have, a deeper interest in the Kenyan economy than in Uganda. What strategic interest does the Western world have in Uganda, such that they are ready to do what they can do to Kenya? When Kenya was having this turbulence, they all came, say, guys, come. You saw Kibaki, you saw Raila, let their souls rest in peace, come together. Everybody was running from Denmark to London and to Sweden to make sure that they get these guys on the table to talk honestly. And the country that had generated almost to a Somalia level, they averted a bigger crisis than that. So do you think Uganda as it is, these Western world have got that interest that they run around because Yusuf is punching Katesh and so on? Maybe not. So Ugandans must know that we need to address this, but there should be goodwill on both sides, both on government and both on the opposition. This arrogance on both sides will not help this country. It will not. I am only not happy with the other institutions. Like, I don't think the religious groups are doing more. They should do more. They are doing far less. I don't see the elders that have gone through turbulences in the past are doing more. They should be doing far more than what it is happening. Because I agree with Katesh, this democracy, it can't be achieved in in 1 week's time we have already sorted out, well, things will be okay tomorrow, forget it. It's going to take a little bit of turns around, and we are going to hit each other. The late Mwanga used to say, Mirambo, it will be part of it, and so on as we go on to make this country better. Maybe that's what the Western world went through, and we have no choice. We may not walk the long way because there is history to learn from, but I think we have a journey to walk, and we need to walk that journey now.
I'll turn to the scholar in Yusuf and try to find out, really, what is their precedence, in the past? Or
can I add on something? I asked the question. I said the religious leaders, the elders. Can I add on the list? The scholars.
We are glad you haven't yet come down to journalists.
Oh, and the media. These days you've reduced yourself to social media. You are no longer.
You should see what's happening on social media. All experts at moderation are there. Kastiate is talking to Omar. Come here and do it in the same ones.
Okay, the point is okay.
The same one. Then tomorrow they are saying the police should investigate that. The experts in police, the experts in aviation,
yes.
Experts in that. Yusuf, the expert in academia.
I guess they are trying to protect me from
because that is your playground. Now, Yusuf, indeed, like the two politicians have put it to us, it doesn't seem to make sense to have a situation here in Uganda and you think that adjudication will be done by going to appeal to sentiments of people who for the most part may not care about us. But maybe they care.
Yeah.
We have seen situations like Venezuela where a president was picked from home and has been taken to face justice, and we see these conversations going on even within.
Did they care because of the situation in Venezuela?
That's what I'm putting to you. So
all the strategic interests of the U.S. in Venezuela.
We should begin here. See, we are at a talking platform. Right here, we are talking, and we think everything can be resolved by talking, which is a beautiful thing. But are the key stakeholders, like the winners of this election, are they really interested in talking? Are they the talking type? You start by the CDF, for example, who has actually proudly spoken about his attack on the wife of the leading opposition candidate. Is he really interested in talking? Simon, you're following social media right now. If you follow social media, the commander of the defense forces in this country, who is a very powerful stakeholder, ever since this election ended, he has gone on and on, threatening to arrest, to execute, to kill, to cut off the balls of the leading opposition person. Does that look like to you that the core stakeholder is interested in talking? So when we sit here, because it's a talking platform, we sound nice. We need to have a conversation, we need to do this. But where the people who seem to be in more powerful positions than we are, well, me, I'm actually nobody. These are MPs, and this is for my MP.
Not yet. Not yet. He's a current member of parliament.
Are they really interested in talking? Because you see, if Muhoozi speaks and his father can't say, you can't do that, it follows directly that perhaps Muhoozi is speaking the voice of his father. And often in his tweet he says, the only person who can stop me is my father, Mzee. So when he come here and we say, Bobiwine should have stuck here and
I don't care what social media says. Let me interject. When Museveni replies to Muhoozi, he possibly also put it on Twitter. They may possibly talk as the adult in the room.
How would we know? How do we know as a public? How do we know? Because silence for us translates into endorsement. Anyways, so that's the first challenge we have. Every time we speak about conversation talking, we make it look like the other side is refusing to talk. That this side is with the open arms saying, can you come to the talking table, because there are actual challenges. You see, so that's the first point I want to make. But somehow I want to speak about the dilemma of the activist. When you're a guy like Bobiwine, when you're a guy like Akiza Besigye, when you're Museveni, this is a perennial dilemma for the African activist, because the African activist fully understands that the core decision makers in this country are not really the voters. No, the people who impose leaders on us are often foreign. I've said, Simon, that in this country we don't have a history of changing our leaders on our own. It has never happened. All our leaders have changed by external hands. We didn't kick out Yoweri Museveni. Somebody was attending a conference in Singapore, and they told him he may not return home, which means they had actually effectively overthrown him. Tanzania had to come in here under the auspices of the CIA. Museveni was almost giving up before the Israelis threw him weapons. We have never in our history been able to overthrow leaders on our own. So if a man...
Alice Obote you did.
We did. 1986.
1985.
We did not.
That one you did.
But then the power that brings in the man who has held on to us for the last 40 years, that is not us.
That is 86.
So here's the point I'm making. That the activist finds himself in that dilemma. Do I appeal to these emasculated, helpless voters like myself? Or should I go to those who have actually changed the governments in this place? And then they have to go. They know it is a bad thing. Because you see, if the Americans say they are coming to pick Museveni from State House and take him to New York, I'll be one of those joining Museveni's forces to say, no, you're not taking our man. This man is our problem. We need to deal with it here. So it is a bad thing, but the activist, the political struggler, finds himself in that dilemma. Should I stay here and wait for my capture as the son of the president is threatening? Or I need to run to those who have actually had power to change things? And in that some spirit, I think Honorable Katuntu is not being fair to compare Kenya and Uganda. Muzungu have different interests. Muzungu have different interests in these different places.
Correct.
Here, we have the biggest refugee community in this country. We have open borders. Muzungu are very interested in that. We produce large amounts of coffee. Muzungu are interested in that. We have a huge Muzungu are very interested in so many things. In fact, one of my problems, we fight their proxy wars. We are doing business in Somalia, even with the first hand territory. If you are hiding, said the American ambassador, if you're hiding Bobiwine, we are going to stop helping in Somalia.
And so you think Muzungu would be more interested in talking to Bobiwine as opposed to...
No. This is Bobiwine's dilemma. That we're doing business in South Sudan. The other man almost fell, but we said, can you go please help our man? We're in Central African Republic, we're in Africa, so we're all over doing business for Muzungu. So this is the problem with that Bobiwine faces too. Museveni's friends will not sanction him. Because you see, if you have the best example of a man who has served Muzungu interest on the African continent, you look no further than this country. He is the quintessential example of a colonial caretaker. Yoweri Museveni has properly taken over this country. We have nothing in this country. We have nothing. Everything that is of value belongs to Muzungu. You see, through the agents, everything belongs to Muzungu. So, for that, Muzungu have major interests in Uganda, and they love Yoweri Museveni. This is why I really think Bobiwine is
I think we can't
between a rock and a hard place.
It's exactly 25 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm afraid, Yusuf, we've got to put a close to this. Take a short break. When we return, we continue with the conversation. Thank you. Welcome back. It's the Capital Gang, and coffee in the studio is served by our very good friends. Hey, where is Lydia? The last time I checked, she was right next to me.
She came her minutes to me.
Well, Star Cafe, thank you very much for the wonderful coffee, and it's usually served in yellow cups. Today is a bit of a change. I see white cups. I don't know why, but yes, Yusuf, I'll allow you the opportunity to conclude on your point. Sorry for the...
I was finishing on the point of the comparison between Kenya and Uganda that Honorable Katuntu is making, and I think in both places, Muzungu are interested in the status quo. Now, Kenya offers them the package that it has offered them. So Kenya went through a moment of violence, and Kenya started reforming itself democratically. So they allowed, they love the fact that it has gone through that moment. It is reforming itself democratically. So people opposed to each other in Kenya respect each other because they have what you call mutually assured destruction. They have mutual respect. The Odinga camp, Let Odinga camp, the other camp, they have mutual respect for each other. Now here, if you're talking about talking, there's absolutely zero respect that the NRM has people in the opposition, because they can buy us off, they can jail us, they can do whatever they want without consequence.
And the other way around?
We despise them for their refusal to respect us. But you see, the difference for them, they are the one who has power determines the pace of the conversation. The one who has power calls the shots. To whom much is given, much is expected. So this is the problem, that here we are not mutually respectful because we don't have mutually assured destruction, because on the other side they know we'll throw in jail without consequence. 2 years and counting in jail. The Edim Tours, all of them are in jail and nothing happens. You see, and so it's in that context that the CDF can't even brag about cutting off somebody's balls, and there's no consequence. Do you see, Simon? So that's the point I'm trying to build, that the comparison is fair, but you need to take care of Kenya's special history, that Kenya went through a moment of violence that gave them mutual respect for each other. We had that moment 1986 after we went through a moment of violence. Now I don't know if the people in government are quoting that we go through that moment so that they start to be respectful toward those who oppose them, because you have to respect them, because you see, once you cross the Rubicon, once you cross the Rubicon, there will be fire, and once this house catches fire, all of us, it will be indiscriminate, all of us will be cooked in the fire which will break out. Simon.
I'll turn to you, Lydia, and also put to you the same question I put to everyone around the table on what the end game, in your view, could be with someone that loses an election here. Well, for reasons that we all know, by personal safety and the fact that really he cannot now organize or mobilize and grow his political party in the circumstances, goes into exile. And from there, he's making statements and appealing to Western powers to do, among other things, sanction the current regime and some of its workers. Does it really have an end game that is plausible, that would bring any change to our circumstances?
You see, I was thinking about that question, but it has a history from where we are coming from. We went multi-party in 2005 after the referendum, and that's why you hear about contestation that are seemingly in law political party contestation, but in reality we are really still individuals, and whether or not multi-party in Uganda will grow is a debate for another day, despite the efforts of government and parliament. This Katesha and Katuntu, they have tried to put funding, like it was a gap for political parties to have capacity to grow, because you cannot run a political party without resources. But even with that, there are still challenges. Maybe even I've had cries about amending the legislation around funding political parties, so that you also fund those who do not have members of parliament, so that they grow and also begin posting capacity for having members of parliament. So that's one. The second one, we can compare our East African countries with anything else but not politics. There is a way we are far from the practices that are happening everywhere, because of our history coming from a complete breakdown of the state and rebuilding again from 1986. We are quite different from countries like Kenya, that yes, they had a strong role in the days of Moi after Kenyatta, but when KANU split, they built new young forces that were economically strong. Like even you see what is happening now, the groupings of between the 47 counties seem to be having what you would call balance of terror, despite the tear gas. Find that these are strong, their parliament has groupings, you cannot have a majority, but once you have a government like ours that has a majority, and politics is about the majority, doesn't matter the quality of the majority, it is very difficult to have a voice that can organize without being stifling, until maybe you get another strong team that can split. Remember, it was this in 2000 and actually around 2005 when we went into towards the 2005 to 2008, but coming from 2001 that took us 2005. They had a split of reform agenda that finally went into FDC. That was a semblance of a strong alternative voice to government. But if you look at the founders, there are also strong people who had been members of parliament. And you can now see what has happened, because the splitting affects the strength, but also the resources. Because the resources, the way our legislation is, you must be a member of parliament or the strength of members of parliament. So I think that Uganda is where Kenya was during the strong days of Moi. That's what I can tell you. So when you talk about, because most of these people who are in Kenya, some of them were either in prison or they were, because of lack of level of debate or even appreciation, they were either in exile or in prison. How many years was Raila Odinga in prison? And so many other people of his life. But he was the face of opposition, or growing opposition, or the alternative government in Kenya. And up to now, they have not succeeded taking State House despite the handshakes and the negotiations. Why they do that most often and they are able to meet and shake hands and run to the next election is because of the way their economic base is also structured. Many of them have businesses. It's a stronger economy.
They have stake.
They have a strong economy than Uganda, but their stronger economy is clothed into indigenous politicians, strong history of politicians, either through the family, strong founding fathers of families, or the business. They have a strong economy because of the Mombasa port, tourism, and because over years they have a stake. Actually, some of them who are in opposition, they share businesses. So there is so much they can fight. They stop somewhere and say, come and we talk, because it is going to affect their businesses. If you look at northeastern and Mandela area, where mostly the Somalis come from, and the Wajir, where most of them come, the business hub comes from. And in Nairobi, they are from. They have an area where they have dominated. You cannot cause chaos to even get there. Tear gas. They will say stop, let's talk. So you have areas which have spots for violence, but you see immediately there are solutions. People start going to State House to negotiate, so that the stability in Nairobi and other areas, to ensure that businesses thrive and that they have a big stake in the economy of the country. That day we start seeing Ugandans having a very big stake in the country's economy, in terms of even numbers and relatively spread out. If you look at the map of the country, we begin seeing people preferring negotiations for governance than conflict, or than having activists, or what should you call activists, or what should you call extremists, who have nothing to lose. So the biggest efforts now that we should have is that let's struggle so much to ensure that our country have people that have a stake when they have something to lose, other than their anger and just their hands. Because if you have a stake in the economy of the country, you cannot wish to destroy it. But if you have nothing, when you go and find Kateshi's hotel or Katuntu's bus company, you will not hesitate to touch it.
Wait, Katuntu has a bus company?
You will not hesitate to touch it. Or use for the hotel in town, or Chikubo, or shopping mall. I am giving vivid examples. We must create.
You want to make me
we must create a situation, and I don't know how we are going to do it, because our population is also skewed.
But where are the extremists?
If you look at the population census of 2024, which is about a year or two ago, about 75% of our country's population are below the age of 35. So it must be deliberate and intentional for our government to find opportunities for this crop of the population to have a stake in the economy and the governance of the country. They should not feel hopeless. They shouldn't feel hate, and because they can easily use emotions and that energy to be more destructive. We must find a way of using that energy to be progressive than to be destructive. When you look at what they are calling the skilling centers and industrial park, I come from Mbali, so we have an industrial park in Mbali, and we also have a skilling center like all other centers. I think that is the model that we should be looking at the country, but do more, which are more attractive, maybe improve on the IT, the cost of IT, so that these people are aligned to progressive energy than making them feel idle or not feel that they are part of the inclusivity campaign of being part and parcel of the economy of the country, but also the governance of the country. So we have a serious white elephant in the room to solve. And if you are talking about a leader, how did he become a leader? He was able to attract many Ugandans who do not feel that they are included in any matters of the country. These are people that are angry, they are bitter. You must draw to the history of why are they angry, but they can go to do anything. So that, and we now question the anger and the extremism, but there is a history to it. So there must be an intentional and deliberate plan for us to include that category of the population, and it can start with us. We've discussed this morning that 2 million of 1.5 million Kampala population that comes to the streets or the verandas in the morning and find where they can go and stay in the evening or wait for the night to go and come back and survive. The moment they get hardened and they begin seeing them and us, that's why you are going to have a challenge, and not many of them can afford tickets to fly out of the country and speak online from positions of security or when they have been secured, because not everybody can run away from Uganda. So those who stay will be like this rat which you have not, the cat you have not provided for a space to, you are pushing on the wall. They can now fight back and say, this is our country, we cannot run away from here, let's face each other. So I thought that we should discuss more those that stay in Uganda after an election and they've lost and they feel that the election was not free and fair, or they have been excluded, than even those who are out are fewer than those who feel the same and cannot leave the country.
Tremendous. It's exactly 10 minutes at the top of the hour. We should be closing this at the top of the hour. So I'll allow in a 2 Detabra again for us to make our last submissions on this issue and conclude. If there is anyone that may want to also just shed some little bit of political inclusion of a subject matter in the week that we're just concluding, we saw a former National Unity Platform member of parliament who I think lost in this round of elections, quickly has now been assumed into the NRM4, and he really is all out to punish the people of his constituency that chose deliberately.
Did you say it's a National Unity Platform?
Pardon me, I stand guide. I think it is FDC. We're talking about the Honorable Yusuf Nsibambi.
Forum for Democratic Change.
You certainly would know a lot better than me on that one, and I take your guidance.
No, actually, many things I would. I mean about FDC.
I thought you wanted to guide him on many
things. This is a lead and rather than wrapped in one.
He's throwing jabs like he's not fasting. Fight mode.
That's me and Simon.
So I'll start with my left side in honor of my friend Honorable Kateshi. Let's take our concluding remarks. And
thank you very much. First of all, on the subject of the new catch in the NRM, I think we welcome him, and he's a very good addition. He's a very seasoned lawyer. He has taught many people. I think he adds value, but he also is someone who has done a lot of development. So I have been seeing people bashing him. I fail to understand. I fail to understand some of these political parties. Politics it's about adding and multiplication. If you don't believe in adding and multiplication, and every time a move like that happens, you are lamenting, bashing someone. That's how
division.
Yeah, that's how some of these political parties have completely gone down. And at the end of the day, they blame the party, the NRM. But it's simply because our president has actually embraced dialogue, and he has made efforts to make sure that he reaches out to some of the people. That's why we have ministers in his cabinet who are leaders of the other parties, and that one makes our work much easier. So parties, people who are bashing him, condemning him, should actually be making efforts to entice the likes of leaders to join them, and others. I'm saying, giving an example.
My friend, Lydia has just arrived at the table where the serving is. You're thinking people are
I'm saying they should be focusing on enticing us.
She has been at the table though.
So that's what I can say. But generally, in a final, we've been talking about the presidential elections, etc. The general mood after elections, Simon, is that people are actually stressed, especially people who have been involved in the campaigns and people who have lost. Apart from people who are seasoned like the Katuntus here, who know how to recover quickly, we actually have cases that need counseling. Some of our colleagues in Parliament.
But maybe Katuntu does, because he has never lost in his entire life, except
and talking to them. So I want to agree with
only 25.
I want to agree with Katuntu that maybe it's high time, as the 11th Parliament, before we conclude our session, we need to have some agenda to discuss about the experiences, but also maybe make an effort to reach out to some of our people.
Steam off
at our different levels, because I know some of our colleagues who are actually sick. We have lost an MP. There is a contestant who recently was number 3 in the election. He collapsed. So elections are becoming an issue, and people need to understand
life and death issue.
You go in.
So what are you saying about Museveni?
You lose the primary.
No, he had moved out from Museveni. He was just concluding, saying a matter of personal concern.
Yes. So if you see, even this is my friend here, the doctor. He's a doctor. He's talking, but I'm sure he's at pains. He's at pains because maybe what he expected is not what came out. So how do we talk to these people who are not even willing to actually sit and dialogue?
You want to say useful needs counseling?
Well, Abdul, let's conclude.
I don't think he has accepted the outcome
of the presidential
election. Yes, because I've read his pieces.
There was no outcome for me. This election was predicted. Predicted.
It doesn't need counseling.
A lot.
He's one of those who might.
Abdul Katuntu, please come in.
For quite a long time, I've been thinking about this country, and I'm like, okay, opposition in Uganda, or people having grievances. I think it's high time we started interrogating that. Do we have real opposition? Because once you talk about opposition, you're talking about, one, ideological differences, different strategies, or you are having a certain group of folks who really have grievances against government and have been baptized the opposition. I think you researchers, you need to go beyond, this social media rantings and so on, and examine it. And that can only give you a way forward. Because when you look at Kenya, every 5 years you've got new infrastructure,
New-
political
new
infrastructure,
formations.
what we call special purpose vehicles, political vehicles. And guys who are here, they are running this side, and then that becomes opposition.
But the actors are the same.
The same, 100%. They only change addresses.
And
The
what you are
one
putting
address
in
is
that
now in government, then the other address in opposition. And then thereafter their politics